The unprecedented third term for Xi Jinping by the Communist Party of China would be announced today. The endorsement for an unprecedented third term for Xi by the Communist Party is expected, with the 69-year-old president completing a 10-year tenure this year, and he will be first Chinese leader after party founder Mao Zedong to continue in power. His re-election will end the 3-decades-old rule followed by his predecessors to retire after 2 5-year tenures. Remember, ahead of the 20th Congress, Beijing witnessed rare public protests with banners hung on overpasses, protesting against Xi's unpopular zero-COVID policy. Mr. Xi, who remained the General Secretary of the party since 2012, is expected to be part of the new standing committee, which will endorse a third 5-year term to him. While the end of the 20th Congress will usher in brand new leaders at all levels except for Mr. Xi Jinping. According to observers, new tenure is expected to put Xi on course to continue in power for lifetime like Mao. Joining us now is Zhao Yunfei. He is a reporter of CGTN, joining us from Beijing. Thank you so much for your time. I want to begin by asking you today, what does this mean really for China, with China reaffirming Xi Jinping's power, removing number 2? How are the people of China really looking at this?
Well, so currently what's going on is that the first plenary session of the Communist Party of China Central Committee is underway, and what they're doing is doing all series of election, and one of them is electing the General Secretary. But before that, a political bureau will be elected, and then the standing committee of the political bureau will be elected, and then the General Secretary. So we won't be able to know the final results until 4 GMT, which is at noon Beijing time, who will be the General Secretary and who will be other people on the standing committee.
But it's almost a given, isn't it, Zhao?
Well, it has to go through all series of election procedure, and then it's a very serious election procedure. First of all, the entire Central Committee was elected by 2,000 party delegates. They come from all around the country, and they themselves are elected from more than 96 million party members throughout the country. And then the Central Committee, and then it closes, and then it goes to the first plenary session of the new Central Committee. So it's a series of election process according to the constitution of the CPC. So the final results will be firmly goes in accordance with the constitution.
Also I'm wondering, if at all Xi Jinping were to return, like you're saying that we'll get a final confirmation on that later in the course of the day, but there is going to be a sense of continuity when it comes to the economic policies, financial policies for China, which is recovering from an economic slowdown, especially after the onslaught of COVID, isn't it?
Well, speaking of economy, China has been shifting from a steady growth or fast development method into a development method that is very strategic development method that is called a new development pattern. So China emphasized on the dual circulation, which means that the Western market and the international market reinforce each other with the domestic market as the mainstay. So it's a part of China's new development pattern and strategic development pattern, and that's basically a shift of the focus. Speaking of the COVID policy, China has been focus on the zero COVID policy, and that is the consideration putting people's need first, because it considers the healthy and safety of its own people. Think about how the beginning process of the pandemic, when the vast majority of the lockdown of the city of Wuhan, really the CPC governed China has given a good result for the sake of the whole entire Chinese people in terms of protecting their safety and healthy.
In terms of its international policy, what really is on the cards, and what is the anticipation when it comes to China's policy towards Taiwan? Because the globe is watching the situation right now, the world is watching the situation in this region right now.
Taiwan is not part of international policy. China sees Taiwan as its internal affairs. But the only perspective, if you say, that's relevant to international policy is because of the foreign interference to the Taiwan question. China sees Taiwan as a part of China, and people across the strait are both Chinese. And then there are separatism, internal separatism. A lot of them has to do with the foreign interference. Also, at the opening session of the National Party Congress, Xi Jinping said that China would not tolerate any political or foreign interference on its internal affairs, including the Taiwan question.
Lastly, what is expected as far as China's policy towards India is concerned?
Well, China and India has maintained a very good relationship. I mean, they are neighbors, and then China sees and treasures this kind of relationship because both China and India are huge economic parties throughout the world. So does, as it relates to the foreign policy as whole, China sees a peaceful development and in any future development plan when it comes to international policy, and so does the relationship between China and India. So country is proposing peaceful development and mutual beneficial cooperations.
But you know what we really expect here is that the aggression on the part of China is going to continue, especially with Xi back in power once again. As far as the LSC question is concerned, there's been a stalemate, and we don't really see any movement as far as the stalemate is concerned.
It's not aggression of China because from multiple perspectives, China's development really didn't affect the interest of other people throughout the world, and only serve the interest of people its own. And also China has provided a lot of strategies, wisdoms to the international community. So I don't see that China is it's threatening at all.
All right. I'm thanking you for the moment, Zhao, for getting us all of those details and sharing your views with us on that big story that we're tracking very closely.